That's where Berlusconi is. The man who comes will make a peace agreement with Italy, a covenant. He's his best friend, one of the best friends. And so we see the parallel, what's going on between the prophecy and this particular guy. And I'm telling people, look, I am not saying that he is the Antichrist. I'm saying pay attention because it is running parallel. But if they make a peace agreement, which they're trying to work on right now, and they're really working on it, which happens to be prophecy in 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, where it said, there are times and the seasons, brother, I don't need to write to you because you will know when there's saying peace and safety, sudden destruction comes. And so at the times that Israel is talking peace and safety, this is the time that Israel will get attacked. And this is one of the major signs that we are in the last generation. So you have a lot of different variables taking place all at the same time. So I told the people, this is what you better watch, because just keep an eye on Berlusconi for now and watch, because if he makes gestures to go back into the peace agreement like he used to work on when he was the leader of Israel before, he worked heavily on the peace agreement then. As a matter of fact, at that time, Sharon Peres was asked by Berlusconi to come to Rome for the peace agreements because they were really good friends. And so if in the future, and I think that if it happens, it'll be in the very near future, if Berlusconi gets into the peace agreement of fray again, that all we need to do at this point is to watch what happens. If they make a covenant, a peace agreement, which they're working on right now, and in the book, I tell you that you can see the PLO, the Hamas, and the people in Lebanon and Syria just recently are working on a peace agreement. The Hamas just got a truce signed, and for the last, I think, 3 or 4 days, the truce is lasting. The fighting is stopped in the Middle East right now in relation to the Hamas. So this little peace agreement is holding. But when the final peace agreement comes, we know that Daniel said it would be for a time span of 7 years. So if they go, and Bush has already stated, and his administration has already stated that they are working vehemently to try to get this peace agreement signed by the end of 2008. And they're working on it as we speak. They have representatives over there right now working on this peace initiative. So if it does get signed by 2008, I just tell the people, look at it. If it's for a period of 7 years, you know by the signature on that if the guy who does this is a Roman guy or a Roman leader or somebody coming out of Rome, then you know that exactly what Daniel said, 7 years, we have entered into the 7-year tribulation, because that's exactly the sign that Christ told us to look for. As a matter of fact, Jesus referred to Daniel when he was talking to the prophets or his disciples, mentioning, as it was spoken by Daniel, when they see Israel encompassed. So we know that this peace agreement or this covenant will be signed, and it will be for a 7-year period. Now here's an interesting point, Gina. NASA just recently posted when the blood moons were going to be out again. Now if they sign a peace agreement by the end of 2008, the blood moon will come out again at the end of 2014, 2015. So if agreement is signed, and it is for a 7-year period, and right now the Hamas and the PLO are working on a time frame of 10 years. Never before since Carter, Begin, and Sadat talked about the peace agreement, anybody ever mentioned about a timetable. Now they're talking about a timetable, and in my post I warn the people, I don't care how many years that they say that they want to work around, the final result will be not 10 years, it will be 7 years. When they started to talk about this peace agreement with Sadat, Begin, and Carter, the word covenant was never mentioned until the latter part of last year when Sharon, the Prime Minister of Israel, said that we want a covenant signed now. So when you read what is written in prophecy and you listen to what they're saying today, it's a carbon copy of the words that God had given the prophets. That's why I'm telling everybody, you better stand on the watch with me, because we have entered into the last days, the final days of the last days before the church is taken out of the way. And so Berlusconi may be, I don't know. I'm just saying we should just keep our eyes on him. There's another guy, is Solana. He is right now, he is the highest guy within the European Union. And Solana is he's a high, his titles are High Representative for the Common Foreign and Security Policy, which is labeled as CFSP. He's also the Secretary General and a political minister for the last 13 years. He put in place like a treaty that brought in the Palestinians and Israel for the first time. And the treaty, it was called the Good Neighbor Policy. The Common Foreign and Security Policy was the actual name for it. And this was under the recommendation that he put out in the European Union, and it just so happens that the recommendation number for this good policy, or good neighbor policy, it's recommendation 666. When you read in the New Testament, in Book of Revelation, what Jesus Christ tells us, and he warned us that a man would come and he would force everybody in this world to take the mark of the beast, which is 666. As you can see, you really have to pay attention to what's going on within the European Union, because this good neighbor policy was established under the guidelines of number 666. And so there's different people that we should be paying attention to. So we have 10 nations. We got 3 of the nations who call the Gang of 3. We have a few people who I believe in my heart are going to surge their way up through the 3. And it says in Revelation that this leader will be granted power by these 10 kings. And just in 2004, the first treaty that was signed was the Treaty of Rome in 1957. They came back again, and they were going to renew the treaty to get their constitution signed, because the European Union is working to get a constitution like, for example, America has their constitution. That would be the guidelines for all of Europe. And this constitution, when it's signed, what's going to happen is they're going to have, for the first time in 2,000 years, since Caesar Nero, for the first time, they will have a full-time president over all of Europe for the European Union states. This is remarkable, since Jesus said that, he lumped this in with the categories of, when you shall see all these things take place, know that it is near, even at the door. So for the first time, now, they just had a vote in Europe. And as people who don't follow the news probably don't understand what I'm talking about, but they had a treaty, the Roman Treaty of 1957, was trying to bring out an establishment. They also signed part of this treaty in 2004, where 27 of the people, the nation leaders, came and they went into Europe and signed the document that was going to ratify the treaty. And that treaty was called the Lisbon Treaty, and it's a modification of the Roman Treaty that was signed. And so they've been trying to, each member state, ratify this document so that they can actually sign the Constitution and establish it, put it into a form. Well, a couple weeks ago, Ireland voted, and they voted no on the ratification period. And so when I put up my post, I told the people, look, don't let people discourage you, because the European Union leaders are going to work this out. I don't know how they're going to do it, but there's already gestures within the European Union leadership that they may opt out on Ireland if they want to, bypass them, and just continue on with the ratification process, which the only people now left would have been the Irish people. And so let's take the whole